Hey everybody, this is Dion Sombrano, and today I'm going to go over striking the head bare knuckle, so stay tuned. Alright guys, so what I'm going to go over today is like 5 points or principle, well not so much principle, but 5 points or tips about striking the head bare knuckle. Okay, it's a lot different than striking it with the glove on. So these 5 points that I'm going to go over hopefully will help you to understand about where to strike and how to strike, and there's some considerations when you do hit somebody in the head bare knuckle. Alright, so in the next segment I'm going to go over the 5 points of what to consider when you do that. Okay, so the first thing I want you to consider and think about, guys, is when you're striking the head, you have to consider the parts of the head that you're striking. So the first thing I want you to think about is the jaw. It moves. Okay, that's the first thing I want you to think about. Second thing is the head moves. So if I hit, the head moves. Okay. And now the third thing is if you hit it higher, the top of the crown of the skull and the top, it doesn't move. Okay. So the takeaway from that is the higher up you go, the more dangerous it is when you're striking with your fist, because you could strike the hard bone of the top of the head, it doesn't move, which could cause damage to your hand. So the lower you go, the more safer it is when you're striking somebody, and the more least likely you're going to be able to break a knuckle of your hand from striking on somebody. Okay, so that's something to consider when you're fighting out there in the street. Okay, the second thing I want you to consider is if you're attacking at this line of the face, by the cheeks and the nose, when you're striking, head hunting, usually that's what you're going to go for, trying to break the nose or hit them in the cheek area. You got to be very careful when you strike like that, because all it takes is for somebody to just duck their head, and next thing you know, you're cracking your hand on the solid part of their head, which will cause damage to your hand. Okay, so when they do this, when you're going straight for the nose, you might hit them once, right? Maybe twice. Sooner or later they're going to duck, and when they do, you're going to be going for that third or fourth shot as hard as you can. You're going to end up breaking your hand. Okay, so you got to be very, very careful about striking at that mid-range as far as the head. So you have the lower range, mid-range, high range. Okay, so you got to be careful about hitting this area right here, because they're going to most likely duck down and not enough time to break that hand. Okay, so that's the second thing you need to consider when striking somebody in the head bare knuckle. Alright, now the third thing you want to consider when striking bare knuckle, okay, is the target. What you want to do, I made a video about this, but I'm going to just reiterate some of the information on that video, is you want to hit like below the nose area, about 8 inches in this area right here. When you strike, just lower it down from here to here. Okay, that way when you're striking somebody, okay, you're hitting him in this area here, so when they move, you still hit them. When they move back, you're able to hit them. When they turn here, you still hit them. If they move up, you can still hit them in the throat. So you're always going to be constantly hitting them, and if they drop their head, you can still hit them without hitting the hard part of the skull. Okay, so if you hit in this area right here, we pretty much have a 98% to 99% accuracy rate when you're striking somebody. Also, it saves your hands from hitting the skull. Okay, you don't want to hit the crown or the top of the skull, because that don't move and that causes a lot of damage to your hand. Right? So that right there is very important when you're fighting somebody bare knuckle out in the street. Okay, the fourth point I want you to go over and consider is when you're striking somebody, always try to keep your fist in either a vertical or diagonal position when you hit somebody. Do not turn it over in the horizontal plane, because if you turn it over in the horizontal plane, this is where you most likely will end up breaking or getting what's called a boxer's fracture. Okay, and it's the reason why is because, again, the head is semi-round, so if you hit it on the edge or clip it, it's going to hit the one knuckle or right in this area here, and fracture and crack open here, or you might hit it on this end and be the same thing, okay? And that usually happens because of people throwing horizontal punches, because of boxing, wearing the gloves, and that's how they're going to hit, okay? When the way you should be doing it is in the diagonal or vertical fist position, okay? That's more combat effective, and it causes less stress when you're striking somebody in the head, all right? Turning it over like this opens you up to a lot of damage, okay? There's a lot of fighters, boxers that have broken their hands, and they've all done the exact same thing because that's how they were trained to do it. When you find the street, it's a different animal, okay? As far as when you're striking with your fist, without no wraps or gloves. So again, keep your strikes in the vertical or horizontal or diagonal, never in the horizontal. You can strike horizontally below the clavicles, that's fine, but when you're trying to go to the head, keep them in the diagonal or the vertical, okay? So that's the fourth tip, and I want you to consider when striking bare knuckle. All right, guys, the fifth and final point I want to go over is that the most efficient and quickest way to take someone out in a fight is to take out and attack the head, okay? So you go to any YouTube sites and check out all the street fights, and the majority of the fighters are striking the head to take out the individual. It's the fastest, quickest, and most efficient way to take somebody out. Yeah, you can do all the other stuff to attack the body, the throat, blah, 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 all these other things. But if you watch in the street, the way it really happens, you're going to see it's all these punches to the head, and that will take out the guy and knock him out, okay? So I'm just saying strictly thinking street, that's the way, and that's the reality of what it is, okay? Yeah, you can hit him with elbows, yeah, you can do knees and round kick to the neck, and all those other stuff. Yeah, it could happen, it could work, but I'm telling you, the majority of fights, if you watch them on YouTube and watch any fights that have been seen in the street, it's all about punching fast to the head to take out the individual, okay? So, again, the guiding principle behind this is attack the head, because we're predisposed, for whatever reason, to attack the head with our fists, okay? Whether clubbing it or just striking it, but that's what we're going to do. So the most efficient way is to take out the head, be a headhunter, and that's what's going to happen, all right? So again, the fifth point here is consider that point is that we're going to most likely go and attack the head, all right? So that's the fifth point I wanted to go over when you consider attacking somebody bare knuckle on the street. All right, guys, we've come to the end of the video, and it was a short video. I wanted to make sure it was short. I wanted to get the points across. But these are things that you need to consider when you're fighting somebody bare knuckle on the street. A lot of times we're not told these things, and what happens is we end up figuring these things out at the end when it's too late after we've hurt or broken our hands, And so I want you guys to be able to learn this stuff before that happens, and to just start thinking about it, and to actively focus and have intention when you're striking, and learn how to strike in those areas that will not cause you to break and hurt your hands so easily as if you were just going out there and just throwing it just to throw it. You need to have technique, and you need to have targeting. You need to know what you're doing so that you won't hurt your hand. If you just indiscriminately just start throwing punches just to throw punches, you might hit them, you might not, but it might end up breaking your hand. You might end up injuring your wrist, your knuckles, your fingers, and it could be, injuries that could last a lifetime, okay? So it's best to be able to understand and have technique and knowledge of what it is that you're doing, so this way it doesn't end up having to hurt your hands and make you walk around your whole life with injured hands or fingers, okay? So again, these principles or these tips and points that I'm teaching you guys is very important for you to understand, assimilate, and learn to use them while you're fighting, because you'll go a long way in protecting your hands, and you have a good life and a healthy life with your hands, okay? So follow this information, practice it, and add it to your fighting arsenal and your skills, and it'll make you a better fighter for it. So until next time, this is Daniel Sombrano saying, don't just hit them, punch a hole through them. Take care, and we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.